My name is Anzola Wiggins. I'm a nurse practitioner student with Valdosta State University. Today, I'm going to share with you a skin condition that I suffer from, and it's called eczema. We will be discussing the what, the how, and the why of the skin condition. So, let's get started. The learning objectives I hope to be able to gather, that you will be able to gather from this presentation, is to better understand eczema, some potential causes of eczema, who is at risk from eczema, where on the body eczema can be found, and lastly, some possible treatments that are out there for eczema. Have you ever noticed that you have a itch on your skin? So you scratch it, but you notice that the itching is getting a little more intense, and you're scratching a little bit more. So you decide to look down at it and take a look and see what exactly is going on and why are you itching so much. So you look down and you see this little red area here on your skin, and that makes you want to do a little more research. And from the research, where do we always go to get research these days? Google. And Google says, so when you get to Google, um, you come across these pictures which has the red circular rash that's going on. It has the little indentation to it, the raised areas as you see here in these pictures. And you keep looking at them, and the first thing that typically comes to mind that people think about when they see these types of circles and rashes is they think that they have gotten a ringworm. So you go back to Google and you Google ringworms and you look up ringworms and you start comparison of what you have to what's popping up on Google, the images that you find, and you just keep looking and looking and looking until you find a picture that looks more like what you have on your skin. And you continue to read and you continue to compare, and it leads you to a more picture that looks like what you have, such as these here. And the survey says eczema. So the next thing that comes to your mind is, what in the world is eczema? Where does it come from? How did I get this? Why all of a sudden is it coming up on me now? Is something wrong with me? Is typically what a lot of people want to know. And I know for me, even growing up as a child, I always had what my family just said was bad skin. Don't give her that. That's gonna break her out. Don't let her touch that. That's gonna cause her to itch. That's gonna cause her to get these rashes. It's gonna cause her to whip up. And I'm gonna come a little bit closer to the camera and show you all a little bit. Hopefully you can see it. You may not be able to see it, but I'm going through a little area now where I have this area here, and this is the worst part for me to get the eczema because it's right in that web and it breaks out, and I scratch it, and it and the skin typically breaks open there. And I also have, let's see, come on this side, maybe you all can see it. That's it starting out right there, that raised round circle, and it's also on my finger. Don't want to shoot anyone, a bird, uh, but there it is on my finger there. And over the years, I do have some scarring from the eczema where it comes out on the arms and also on my legs. But typically, that's what I go through. And that's why this condition, I wanted to speak about it because I know that when I was smaller, I got picked at a lot from my skin looking the way that it did. People always thought something was wrong with me, or if they played with me, that they would catch it also. So my symptoms came up just the typical textbook symptoms with the rash, the raised areas and such. So, what is eczema? So, in a nutshell, it's an atopic dermatitis. It's a condition that makes the skin red and itchy, which it really, really does. It's common in children, but you can get it at any age. It's a long lasting chronic condition. It tends to flare up periodically, and unfortunately, there's not a cure for it. You just have to learn to live with it. You have to learn to manage it, and you just have to learn to find out what works best for you. This is just some additional information on it here. So the how. The exact cause of eczema is unknown, but it's thought to be linked to an overactive response of the body's immune systems to an irritant. Now, I do notice that with me, certain detergents will cause my eczema to act a little worse than others. I also know that being during this time of the year is worse for me. The summer is worse for me with the pollen. If I'm outside and the pollen gets on my skin, it really wreaks havoc on me. But the main response and symptoms of eczema is just a irritant to the skin. And just like how mom or dad passed down those beautiful brown eyes and those unique characteristics that's accustomed to you and your family, it's the exact same way with eczema. It's commonly found in families that have a history of allergies or asthma. And for me, my mom has allergies, but hers is not as bad as mine. And I have two sons. The oldest one, nothing bothers his skin at all. I mean, nothing. But the little one, he flares up just like I do in the changes of the season. His allergies get real bad with the puffy eyes and the runny nose, the sneezing, all of the congestion that goes along with it. And I can tell when he gets into something that his skin doesn't agree with, he calls, "Mommy, I'm itching, I'm itching, I'm itching, I'm itching." And that's the typical main thing when it comes down to eczema is the itching. It's horrible. Some of the causes, like I was saying earlier, is the pollen can trigger it, but the specific cause of the eczema is unknown. They really don't know, and they research. They tend to think that it's a combination of genetics and the environmental factor, which is where you live, what you're in contact with, and the families that's a little bit more prone to it. It says that children are typically more to develop the eczema or any other skin condition than what adults are. And that's typical textbook for me. I developed it when I was a lot younger, and just over time, I have just learned to deal with it as best as I could. And the how do you know for sure that you have it? And usually your primary care provider is the one that makes the diagnosis of you having it. They can do a small skin patch test on it to rule out other disorders. They can also do an allergy test to see what different allergies that you may have. But typically, there is not a specific test that is out there for just eczema. For you to go in and say, "I got a test done. I want to get tested just for eczema." It's not a specific test just for eczema. Eczema. It's a combination of ruling out of other potential things before saying, okay, now we're down to diagnosing you with eczema. Become more aware is the main thing with dealing with eczema. Is that um, be more aware of what you come in contact with. Be more aware of the triggers that will cause your flare ups. Your flare ups may be a little different from mine or someone that you know. For instance, I can only use Gain detergent. I used to try to use Tide. Tide was a little bit too strong for me, and so I had to switch from to Gain. And just trying different soaps, for instance, as well. Dial is a milder soap that I can use that some other individuals can't use, may not be able to use. So you just have to know and be aware of what triggers for you. Also understanding, once again, that no two people are the same. So no matter what you may try that may work for you or may work for someone else or may work for me, it's not going to be the same. Getting down to medications. Do I need to take medications or do I not need to take medications? The main things that are out there now for eczema is the topical creams. And more of the topical creams, when I first started with them, had the steroids in them. So you would have to be extremely careful with using those steroids on a constant basis because it does, with the steroids, it does tend to thin the skin and it will cause the discoloration to the skin. But over the years, they have now developed more creams that doesn't have the steroids in them. I saw a commercial before I started doing this review right now that another cream that has come out for children, that was a little more easier on the skin. But typically, depending on how bad the flare up is, I usually just use some of the hydrocortisone cream from over the counter. But if it's one of those days, here like recently where things has gotten a little bit more aggravating for my skin, I typically use the tricidolone cream, and I use the ointment. That I noticed that the ointment works a little bit better than what the cream, because the ointment is a little thicker and it tends to stay on my skin a little bit better than what the cream does. So that's something else that you have to take into consideration with and speaking to your primary care provider when ordering the medications that's going to work for you. Important tips to live by. Eczema is a lifelong skin condition. It's not contagious. So if you see someone that has the flaking red skin, don't run from them. Don't act like you're gonna catch something from them. They're not contagious. It's not a cure for eczema. It's something that you're gonna have to live with for the rest of your life. Anyone can be affected with with eczema, including infants. It starts with the dry skin and the little red patches and the itching and the irritability because they're itching and they don't know why they're itching and they can't get to the itch a lot of times. Also, understanding and identifying what's your triggers, um, and what you need to stay away from. It is also known to be the red, scaly, dry, itchy rash, and if you keep scratching it, it will begin to ooze. You will break open that skin, and that also increases your chances for other infections. So you have to be careful with that as well. Here are my references where I got my information from. So I hope that at the end of this it was informative with you, short and sweet, where you have a little bit better understanding of what eczema is and that you're not hiding or running away from people that you see that have a skin condition such as eczema. It's hard to live with. It's hard for people to look at you and think something is wrong with you and that you are going to give them something, like you're contagious, like you have Ebola or the plague or something, where they run from you and they look at you like, ooh, what's